Surprisingly, over 90% of viewers haven't subscribed yet. If you're enjoying the content, hit that subscribe button. It motivates us to keep creating and helps us never miss an upload. I used to think business trips were just the tax we paid for a better life. Early flights, hotel coffee, receipts wrinkled like old maps. Nora thrived on them. She liked airports, the feeling of purpose at the gate, the way a lanyard could part crowds. I'd text safe travels, and she'd reply with wing photos and boardroom jokes, and we'd both pretend distance was just scenery between scenes. Her latest trip was a 3-day run to Houston for client onboarding. We'd circled it on the calendar with a little star because the bonus attached to it would wipe out our last credit card and maybe fund a weekend away. She left on a Wednesday morning with a navy carry-on and a blouse that said, "promotion material." I kissed her forehead at the rideshare curb and said, "Bring me back a boring souvenir." "You'll get a boring invoice instead," she laughed, then vanished into sliding doors and fluorescent light. Day 1 went by like any other. I cooked something simple, sent her a photo of the cat attacking a paper bag, and got a thumbs up and a long day call after dinner. Day 2 felt longer. She didn't answer my call, then texted, "Sorry, late team dinner, talk tomorrow." Fine. Teams eat late. Deals spill. The cat and I went to sleep listening to the heater click on and off like a nervous metronome. On the morning of day 3, a number I didn't recognize sent me a photo. No words, no introduction. Just an image that took a second to make sense because my brain tried to label the palm trees as stock art and the teal water as too blue to be real. It wasn't a boardroom. It wasn't Houston. The sky sat on the ocean like a smug idea. The resort loungers lined up like soldiers. In the foreground, on a striped towel, was Nora, wearing sunglasses and an expression people save for when nobody who matters is watching. A man lay beside her, close enough that coy was no longer part of the vocabulary. In the corner of the image, a cocktail umbrella leaned against a glass like it had nowhere else it needed to be. Under the photo, a second message arrived. "Thought you should know. She said she was at a work thing, sorry. A friend." I didn't feel the movie version of rage, not even the TV edit. My first sensation was small and precise, a tiny click behind my sternum, like a lock disengaging. I checked the number for a name. Nothing. I called it straight to voicemail. A pleasant robotic voice asked me to leave a message. I left none. I saved the photo, sat at the kitchen table, and looked at our refrigerator calendar as if the little star could explain itself. It didn't. I poured coffee and didn't drink it. The cat tried to sit on my phone like a therapist. I moved him and opened my banking app instead. 2 charges from a chain cafe near our house on day 1. A rideshare from the airport to our place on day 1 at 10:26 a.m. I blinked at that. She'd left for the airport at 7, texted boarded at 8. The app said a car brought someone back to our house before lunch. A second rideshare that afternoon went from our place to a hotel downtown I'd never heard her mention. The previous 2 nights showed no hotel charges in Houston. My chest didn't pound. My eyes didn't blur. It was all oddly quiet inside me, like a library where the books reshelved themselves. I opened a note and wrote 3 lines. Do not confront, do not accuse, document everything. I created a folder named Ledger and dropped the photo inside. Then I forwarded it to a private email account I rarely used, the one I made in college for drafts and secrets that belonged only to me. I screenshotted the rides and the cafe charges and the missing hotel line items that should have been there if she'd ever been wherever she said she was. I texted Nora, "How's Houston?" Her reply arrived with cheerful timing. "Slammed. Flight home tonight. Can't wait to see you. Save me leftovers?" I typed the word always, then deleted it. Instead, I wrote "Sounds good. Need anything?" She sent a heart and a plane emoji and the word nap. I closed my eyes and pictured the resort's horizon. It looked like a straight line, but you know it's a curve if you get there. I showered, shaved, and put on a shirt I usually save for good days. Revenge doesn't have to be messy. It can wear a collar. I checked our accounts and moved my direct deposit to my personal bank. I paused the joint card and scheduled a meeting with our landlord to discuss a lease amendment I already knew he'd approve, because we'd helped him patch a burst pipe at midnight last winter. I called an attorney who answered on the second ring with a voice like clean glass. She listened, asked 2 questions, and said, "If you want calm, we can make calm. Gather. Don't broadcast. Your future self will thank you." I liked the way she said future, as if it had a specific shape. I made the house look like welcome home, without making it feel like welcome back. I put fresh flowers on the counter because I wanted the room to smell like decisions, not sadness. I set 2 mugs out and brewed tea, even though she'd probably want wine. I printed the resort photo on plain paper and placed it under a sheet titled Travel Expenses, like it was a receipt that had wandered into the wrong meeting. On top, I wrote in steady ink, "We need to talk about work." At 5:20, she texted boarding. At 8:04, landed. At 8:29, in car. I didn't pace. I wiped down a counter that was already clean and fed the cat a second dinner he didn't need. The door opened at 8:51 with the music of keys and performance. Nora set her bag down hard, the way you do when you want applause for surviving turbulence. She stepped into the kitchen and stopped because the tea steam had turned the room into a little weather system. She blinked at the flowers. She smiled like I was better than an invoice. "You're sweet," she said, and leaned in to kiss me. I turned my face enough that it landed on the cheek. Not a slap, not a dodge, just a correction. Her eyes flicked to the papers. She laughed like a person who thinks jokes are coins you can use to buy new contexts. "What's this, a debrief?" She reached for the top sheet, read the title, and then lifted the corner like she might find candy under it. She didn't. She found a beach. She didn't gasp. She didn't confess. Her face did a small thing, like a ripple running across a quiet pool when a leaf drops. She closed her mouth, opened it, then poured words that sounded like they'd been waiting backstage. "This is crazy. Somebody is trying to stir things up. That isn't, yes, it's me, but that was an old photo. It's not what it looks like." I pulled out a chair and sat. "It looks like not Houston." She stood as if the floor had announced a policy change. "A friend sent that out of context. It's for a client's offsite. We were scouting venues for Q4. That's why I didn't say anything. It wasn't locked in. You know how NDAs are." "Which client?" She blinked. "Confidential." "Which city?" She blinked again, as if cities had gone extinct. I reached for the folder and slid out the rideshare screenshots. "You came home day 1. You left again to a hotel downtown. You didn't charge a room in Houston either night. I'm trying to reconcile that with your itinerary." She put a hand on the counter to make gravity behave. "You're spying on me." "I'm reading our statements." I kept my voice square. "The numbers don't need my imagination." She stared at the tea like it might hand her a rewrite. "I can explain." "I'd rather you stop explaining." I tapped the top sheet with one finger. "We will do this once, quietly, with dignity. You can choose to tell the truth now, or you can choose to save it for a mediator. Either way, we are done doing secrets." Her eyes went glassy, then hard. "So that's it? You ambush me the second I walk in the door?" "No," I said. "I set the table." She laughed, and it sounded like a fork sliding off a plate. "What? Do you want a confession? You want me to use words that make it easy for you to be the hero?" "I want accuracy." I folded my hands. "I also want my life back." For a long minute, she stared at me like I was a version of myself she hadn't bothered to learn. Then she pulled out the chair across from me and sat in small, slow movements, as if trying not to startle the truth. When she finally spoke, her voice was thin but direct. "I messed up. It started as a, we deserve a break thing, and then it wasn't a break anymore. I told myself it was harmless because it was short. I told myself I'd tell you when the timing was right." She swallowed. "Timing didn't volunteer." I didn't look away. "His name?" She touched her sunglasses even though the sun had been down for hours. "You don't know him." "I will if you keep him in our budget." Her face flinched. "Matt." I nodded once like a meter ticking. "Okay." She blinked fast. "What does okay mean?" "It means I prefer facts." She straightened, ready to bargain with air. "I can fix this. We can be us again. I'll cut him off. We'll do counseling. I'll delete everything." I reached into the folder and slid a single page forward. A list of steps in neat bullet points, separate finances effective immediately. Lease amendment removing her from the unit. She could keep the guest room until the end of the month if she wanted a softer landing. But keys would be returned then. a mediation appointment for the following Tuesday, a request that we not involve friends or family until we had terms. At the bottom, a line that wasn't a threat. We will keep each other's dignity intact. She stared at the page like it had pulled a trick. You planned this. I prepared, I said. There's a difference. Tears arrived, not in a performance way, not explosive, just quiet. You didn't even yell. Yelling is for people who want to be persuaded. She wiped her face with the cuff of the blouse she'd chosen for Houston. So, you're not forgiving me. I'm forgiving myself, I said, and felt the words click into place. For ignoring the weather. She folded the page and unfolded it and folded it again like it might turn into something gentler. Do you still love me? She asked, so softly I almost pretended I hadn't heard. I love the version of us we were, I said. I won't love the lie you tried to replace it with. Her shoulders slumped. She nodded once, a small bow to gravity, then stood and picked up her navy carry-on. Where do you want me tonight? In the guest room, I said. Tomorrow we talk logistics, tonight we sleep. She turned to go, then paused and looked back. Who sent you that photo? A friend, I said. The kind I listen to now. After she closed the door, I sat with the tea until it went cold. The house made its small noises, the cat tested the edge of the counter, the flowers held their color. I opened my private email and wrote to the unknown number. Thank you. You did the right thing. Then I set an alarm for morning and placed the folder back in the drawer where it would wait like a steady heartbeat. Before bed, I stood in my living room and looked at the place we'd painted last spring. The paint still had a tiny smudge where she laughed and bumped my elbow. The smudge would stay. It was a fact, not a sentence. I turned off the light and let the room go dark the way a stage goes dark between acts, not to end the story, but to give the next scene a chance to walk on. When dawn reached the blinds, I woke with a clarity I didn't recognize and trusted it because it didn't need a speech. I made coffee, packed a small bag, and left a note on the table with precise instructions and a simple closing line that said everything without fire. When you come home from a business trip that wasn't, you don't find flowers. You find boundaries. And that's where the day began to deliver exactly what I'd planned. She sat at the table, shoulders slumped, her hands twisting together, like she was trying to wring words out of them. The picture on the counter had drained the color from her face, but she still tried. Alex, it's not what it looks like. I know it looks bad, but you don't understand. It was work. It was a scouting trip. I leaned back in my chair, calm, not giving her the storm she was expecting. A scouting trip in beachwear, with cocktails? Interesting definition. Her eyes darted around, searching for an anchor. I didn't want to tell you because I knew you'd react like this. It was last minute. A client wanted us to see the resort. Matt, he came along. It was business. Business doesn't usually include towel selfies, I said, my voice even. Or lies about being in Houston, or deleting hotel charges that don't exist. That made her flinch. She hadn't expected me to connect the dots. You checked? She whispered. I read what was in front of me, I answered. Bank statements, rideshare receipts, they don't lie, you did. Her hands dropped to the table, palms open. Okay, fine. It wasn't business, but it wasn't what you think either. It just happened. I was tired, he was there, and I didn't plan it. It wasn't supposed to mean anything. That's the problem, Nora, I said, finally leaning forward. It didn't mean anything to you, but it destroyed everything for me. You didn't even give me the respect of a choice. You decided for both of us that lying was better than honesty. She shook her head quickly, panic rising. No, it doesn't have to destroy us. We can fix this. I'll cut it off with him. I'll do counseling. I'll delete his number, change mine if I have to. Just don't throw away what we have. I let her words hang in the air, then pointed at the folder between us. You see that? That's not anger. That's not me trying to humiliate you. That's preparation. That's me choosing a future where your lies don't define me. Her voice cracked. So that's it? You're just done? No, I said. I'm not just done. I'm moving forward. There's a difference. She covered her face, sobs shaking her shoulders. I watched, not cold but steady. For years I thought love meant rushing to comfort, to soothe. Tonight, I realized love also meant respecting myself enough not to carry what wasn't mine. When her crying softened, I slid a single sheet of paper across the table. I've already spoken to a mediator. We'll divide things fairly. You'll have until the end of the month to move your things. There's no need for a scene. We keep our dignity, or we lose everything. She looked up at me, eyes red, voice trembling. You didn't even yell. Because yelling means I still want to change your mind, I said. And I don't. The words seemed to land heavier than any shouting could. She nodded slowly, tears slipping down her cheeks. I'll regret this for the rest of my life, she whispered. Good, I said quietly. That means you'll remember it. She spent the night in the guest room. I lay awake in hours, staring at the ceiling, feeling the strangest mix of grief and peace. Grief for the years we'd shared, peace for the clean line I'd finally drawn. In the morning, she tried again. Soft words, promises, apologies. I made breakfast, set a plate in front of her, and listened. When she finished, I said only, actions have weight. We both live with them now. The next few weeks were a blur of logistics, mediation sessions, lease amendments, closing joint accounts. She begged at first, then grew quiet when she realized I wasn't bluffing. Friends noticed the shift, asked questions I dodged. I didn't need to tell them the details. I wanted her to live with the silence, to be the one who explained why she lost everything. One night, after moving some of her boxes, she stood in the doorway and said, You could ruin me if you wanted to. You could tell everyone. Why haven't you? I met her eyes, calm. Because silence lasts longer than gossip. You'll tell on yourself every time someone asks, and you'll have to live with that. She nodded once, defeated. Then she left. And just like that, the house was mine again. Empty, but mine. The last box left the house on a rainy Thursday evening. Nora stood in the doorway, hair damp, eyes hollow. She lingered, looking at the walls like they might defend her, like the memories stored in the paint could rise up and argue her case. Alex, she said softly, almost breaking on my name. Please, don't close this door forever. We can still fix it. We can rebuild. I kept my hands in my pockets. Nora, what you broke wasn't the dishes or the furniture. It was trust, and that doesn't glue back together. Her lips trembled. I ended it with him. I swear. He means nothing. I was stupid, selfish, scared. But you... She paused, tears spilling. You're everything. I studied her face, not with anger, but with the kind of clarity you only get when you've already let go. If I meant everything, you wouldn't have gambled. You wanted two worlds, and now you don't belong to either. Her hand hovered in the air as if she could pull me back with a gesture. So that's it? After everything we shared? I shook my head gently. Not after. Because of. We had years, Nora. Real ones. And that's why this betrayal carries weight. If it were meaningless, maybe I could forget. But it mattered. Too much to forgive. Her sobs echoed in the empty house. For a moment I almost felt pity, not for the woman she was now, but for the one she used to be, the one I loved without suspicion. But pity isn't a foundation. It's just a reflex. I'll regret this forever, she whispered again. I know, I said quietly. And that's the part you have to live with. She closed the door behind her, and the click sounded like a final gavel. For the first time in weeks, silence filled the house, and it didn't feel heavy. It felt like mine. I walked through each room slowly. The living room, where we'd laughed over bad TV. The kitchen, where I'd left flowers once thinking they meant stability. The bedroom, where suspicion had crept in like a shadow I couldn't shake. Now it was all just space, empty but honest. Friends called asking how I was holding up. I told them the truth without the details. We're done. It was her choice. That was all. Let her carry the longer explanation, fumbling with it each time someone asked. That was my quiet revenge. She had to live inside her story, while I walked free of it. Weeks later, I got a message from an unknown number. No photo this time, just words. She's trying to make him stay, but he's already gone. Thought you'd want to know. I stared at the screen for a long time, then smiled faintly. Not because it hurt me anymore, but because it didn't. I typed back 2 words, thank you, and set the phone down. I realized then that revenge didn't need grand gestures. I didn't need to humiliate her, didn't need to drag her through courts or make her name a cautionary tale. The best revenge was exactly this: calm, steady dignity. She begged, she cried, she promised, but I never returned. I rebuilt, work steadied. Friends filled the silence with laughter. I took long walks, drank coffee without checking my phone, slept through the night without wondering who she was texting. Piece by piece, my life was mine again. And when I looked back, I didn't see the photo, or the resort, or the lies. I saw the moment I chose calm over chaos, truth over illusion. That choice became the line that defined me, not her betrayal, but my response. Because in the end, the sweetest revenge wasn't anger. It was walking away whole, leaving her in the ruins she built, while I stepped into a life that finally belonged only to me.